All right, I just feel like we're talking about looks and we sound so vapid and shallow right now.
Yeah, okay. Can we talk about sex? Can we pivot? Welcome back to another episode of Romancing the Monsters. I'm Em.
I'm Seth.
And today we have a very special book in our hearts because we are discussing the new Lisa Kleypas novel, Devil in Disguise. This is about Merritt and Keir. And it is, well, Merritt is Westcliff and Lillian's child, their first daughter. Keir is of interesting parentage, which we can get into later on, because I do want to hear what Seth has to say about that.
All right. I know. I want to hear what you have to say too. I'm curious.
I feel like you'll be surprised what I have to say, or maybe not. Who knows?
Okay. I feel like I was surprised on my take of it too, because I'm like kind of annoying about certain things.
Yeah. So I was more scared for when I found out what it was, which was what I was already kind of thinking it'd be.
Yeah.
I was more scared of like what you would think of it.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, I can see this being something that Sephra has issues with or like finds difficult to accept. Whereas I was kind of like, okay. Anyway, we're being vague. We should also probably quickly say that this is book 7 in the Ravenel series, which we have read all the series. And maybe later on in this episode, we will have some kind of announcement, perhaps. Who knows?
Who knows? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes. So, yeah, Seth, what is Devil in Disguise about?
All right. So, also, this is the Ravenels meet the Wallflowers. So,
yeah, what is that about?
I don't know if she changed the series or like kind of made it a hybrid series, because it no longer says the Ravenels at the bottom of it. It says the Ravenels meet the Wallflowers. So I'm thinking maybe like there's still going to be some sort of connection between all of that because it's still part of that world. Although none of the Ravenels showed up in this book.
That is true.
Minus Phoebe, but Phoebe, I guess, she's still a Wallflower descendant.
Even on Goodreads. Did you go on Goodreads? Because this book on Goodreads is marked as book 7 of the Ravenels and book 3 of the Wallflowers meets Ravenels. Because books 5 and 6 are also in this. So like, because it was, not books 5 and 6. The one about Gabriel, Sebastian's son. Yeah. And the one about Phoebe. Both of them are also included in this, like, new side series, so, like, a companion series. I don't know if she's making it a series or if she's just like, oh, here's the books where you do have a lot of, like, the Wallflower characters popping up type of thing and, like, their kids. Maybe a bridge series, like you said, like, bridging, hopefully, towards the kids. Yeah. All of them.
Yes, I hope so. And I'm pretty sure I imagined Westcliff and Lillian having a son named Foxhall. Where the heck was he, man?
He was in, was it Phoebe's book?
It was Phoebe's book. Yeah, and I remember I was, like, lusting hard for this man, and he didn't even make an appearance in this one.
Well, my guess is that Foxhall is the eldest son. Therefore, he is probably the one that has to stay in London and take care of the family title and, like, everything that comes with that. Whereas the one that we saw, whose name I can't remember right now, like he's one of the youngest sons. So like he has more, he's more free to do whatever he wants. So he's helping his sister Merritt with her shipping company or whatever.
Yeah, that he eventually is going to take over because she's passing it on to him.
Yeah, that's so my guess is like he's not present because he's too busy taking care of like actual London ton bullshit.
Who knows? He might be the next book then.
Maybe she's keeping him a little secret because Make him a little exciting, you know?
Yeah, she's like, you guys loved Sebastian from my Wallflower series. Wait for Foxhall.
I mean, Foxhall. What kind of name is that? That's sexy as hell. She knew what she was doing.
I know. He's foxy.
I'm imagining him like kind of cunning, you know, like kind of like a fox, like kind of like sneaky but sexy, but like, you know.
I know.
Yeah,
do you think
he's gonna be a good one?
Do you think he's gonna be like a mirror of his father? I feel like he's gonna be like a good mix between his mother and his father.
I'm thinking he's more Lillian than
but
Westcliff.
He'll still have like his father's like possessive, controlling nature.
They all do. We've discussed that.
But I'm just saying, it'll be like
write a man who is not possessive, jealous, and all the good traits that we love in our alpha males, fictional only.
Yes. And I also feel like he's just going to be really hot, and I'm ready because his parents are really hot. So, I mean... Yeah.
But also what we've discovered in this book, well, I mean, maybe not discovered, but at least it reminded me of the fact that all these kids grew up together, and Merritt sees Sebastian as an uncle. So they were very present in their lives growing up. So I'm thinking, like, maybe even Sebastian, you know, put a little of himself into Foxhall.
That is true.
Maybe Foxhall was like, well, I kind of want to be like Uncle Sebastian over there.
Maybe.
Know, roaming the streets of London and chasing the skirts.
Here's a thought.
Yeah.
Here's a thought. Maybe he's an amalgamation of, like, all the characters, and, like, he's just going to be, like, this hybrid child, and, he's going to take all of our hearts.
Poor guy. He's never going to live up to her expectations if we keep going like that.
I know. Okay, we'll stop.
You know, just to end this, the great thing about Lisa Kleypas is that no matter what she does, her men always live up. Yes. They are all unique in their own ways, but they all have common things, which are all the great things that you do want in your fictional males.
Yes.
But they all stand out separately. So I'm interested. No matter how he turns out, I'm excited to see.
I'm excited
who Fox
too.
Hall turns out to be.
And her brother. I just don't want the series to ever end, because her brother can grow up. You know, a few years later, he gets his book as well, and like, you know, he's gonna be different.
I could see him like somehow ending up as like a pirate. You know, like he gets involved with the wrong people in the shipping company, and like he goes and does wild things on the sea. I
honestly would not be mad about that,
right?
And I kind of want that to happen.
Has Lisa Kleypas ever written a pirate book? I don't think she has.
I don't think so. No, I don't think she has.
Well, writing an email right now.
All right. Compose it. But no, and like, just imagine like seeing Westcliff worrying and like being all like, you know, he's rigid, he follows the rules and things like that, and like his son is gonna be like a criminal, or like, I don't know. I really love that idea. I think that's a great idea. Lisa Kleypas, like, please, you don't even need to give us credit for that. I'm pretty sure it's something
we're giving it to you for free.
Yeah, and maybe she's already planning something like that for him. Anyways, we totally like avoided.
Went off track. What is this book about, Saf? God damn it. We've been talking for what, 20 minutes?
Right. Okay. Anyways, so this book starts off with Merritt, who we've already said is Westcliff and Lillian's eldest child. It's their daughter. We saw her, you know, be born. We know her. We love her. We saw her grow up. Anyways, so she's running her late husband's shipping port, who passed away, I think, was it 2 years ago or a year ago? I don't really remember. And she's visited by Keir, who is a Scottish whiskey maker. And he comes in all like fuming and angry because like of the mishandling of his whiskey. And like, since Merritt is like this sweet talker and like everyone just like loves to be around her, she kind of like talks him down to the point where he's like intrigued by Merritt, and like they instantly have a connection, and she's also like attracted to him right off the bat, and like,
who wouldn't be, considering what's coming next?
Right? Like, apparently he's gorgeous, but he has like a big beard, and like, I don't know, he just sounds really hot.
Literally has a beard, because when he shaves it off, everyone makes fun of him because of how gorgeous he is.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what a problem
problems
to have.
that I wish I had.
Right?
Unfortunately, can't grow a beard to hide the ugly.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, Miss Merritt is like at this point in her life where she doesn't really care what people say and she just wants to have like just enjoy her life. And she decides to, maybe pursue things that way. And she goes up and shows him the warehouse that he'll be staying at after he agrees to help. I mean, not help, but like take her help with the workers and like.
Spoiler alert: he doesn't stay at the warehouse for a single night.
He actually doesn't.
Did you notice that?
I just noticed that when you said it.
He never stays there.
Nope, he didn't even sleep. Because I was literally gonna say he slept.
He didn't sleep there. That's for sure.
He didn't sleep the first night there because he was working the whole night.
Yep. He visited it with
Merritt. He did.
And then that was that.
Anyways, what happens is she sees him, bare chested in all of his glory, and he sounds gorgeous. Did they kiss then?
They might have.
I think they did. Anyways, so he tells her it can't go further. This is as far as it's gonna go, and she doesn't take no for an answer, and she kind of just like knows that this is gonna go somewhere else, but she just decides to give him a space for now. Whiskey is all like transported, it's all in the warehouse, and then he decides to go and try and sell some of his whiskey, and he ends up at the famous Jenner's, which we all know is owned and run by Sebastian St. Vincent. And he's hot. He's so hot as like a 60-year-old.
And he makes his entrance, ladies and gents. And I was like, oh, I'm already getting some Sebastian, like 3 chapters in.
I know.
I was not complaining.
He is so hot. He is so hot.
He's like in his 60s and he is thriving. He's never been sexier. This man he's one of those, ages like a fine wine.
But like he was fine before he started aging.
Oh, he was hella fine before and he's just getting finer and finer.
It's like, damn, Lisa Kleypas.
How does the world handle it? How do you do it, Evie?
Right?
How do you handle that much? Man.
Like Lisa Kleypas really wanted her readers to just like be envious.
Oh, she knew what she was doing. Yeah.
Lust for a man that will never exist in real life.
Yeah.
And she succeeded with Sebastian.
Yeah, I gotta respect Lisa Kleypas for understanding the assignment, understanding what people want, and she's like, I love Sebastian, everyone loves Sebastian, so I'm gonna give him some more every single book, and it works every time. So anyway, he arrives at Jenner's, Sebastian is there. What happens next?
Sebastian is taken aback, and like at that point, I feel like you kind of pick up on something going on because Sebastian's distant, but yet he's still looking at Kier very meaningfully. And is that even a word? I don't know. I probably just made that up.
With intent.
There you go. With intent. Sure. And Kira's like, all right, this is odd, but here's my my whiskey. And then they bought like all of his whiskey, basically.
Sebastian bought all of his whiskey.
And so we don't really know what's going on there as of yet, but we know something's happening behind the scenes with Sebastian. And then anyways, Merritt shows up again and she tries to get him to come over for dinner and he agrees, but not really. She more or less just commands him to come, and he's on his way there and he gets attacked on the street and gets stabbed by a thief. And they assume it's a thief, and he makes it to Merritt's place only for him to tell her.
Because this dumbass is like, I just got stabbed and I'm bleeding all over the place, but I gotta tell Merritt that I'm not gonna make it to dinner, and then I'll go back to the shipping place where he's staying.
I'm sorry, but if any man, listeners, if any man tells you that he is he was unable to message you back or even just to say something to you because he was busy, look at Kier. This man was stabbed, bleeding on the street, made sure he got to Merritt, and told her, I won't be able to come to dinner.
Oh, the standards of romance.
Right? Anyways, she sees that he's bleeding and she calls Garrett, our great doctor, and she comes to help him, and then Ransom we find out he's off on official business for
Sebastian.
Yeah, for Sebastian. And we are also like, what the heck? What's going on there? Kira and her decide to have sex. They do. They spend the night together, and Merritt is very much like over the moon and kind of in love, and he's also in love, and like they're kind of like, in that honeymoon phase. And then he leaves the morning after, and his warehouse gets attacked, and he all his whiskey's gone. He jumps out the window, and sadly he loses his memory, and he doesn't remember, conveniently, the week he spent with Merritt. But we also find out at that time, Merritt puts it together that it's because why is Sebastian so invested with Kier?
Well, we all know Sebastian's former character.
Yeah.
We know his past. We know he was very
promiscuous.
Exactly. And he liked the married women mostly.
Because there's no
before
commitment
Evie.
there.
This was all before Evie. Sebastian was, slightly, of a villain. And there was this woman who was a married woman, and she, wanted a little affair, and Sebastian was more than pleased to deliver on that end. And she sired a child that she never told him about until, later.
Yeah.
And so Sebastian didn't know at the time that he married Evie that he had a son elsewhere. And the son was given up for adoption because, and you can explain all that.
I mean, I feel like it was more dramatic than that, because wasn't she like on the run from her husband because her husband was abusive and he was disgusting, and she tried to find some sort of like connection or like just some sort of affection from somewhere else, and she went to Sebastian, she got pregnant, and then doesn't she like have a really bad like birthing process, and like does she not die?
Oh yeah, it was all kind of terrible, and then like she more or less had to give the child up for adoption for his own safety.
Okay, so she didn't die. I thought she died then.
Did she die then? Or later on? I thought it was later on.
Maybe later on. All I know is that his mother gave him a necklace, and that connected to Sebastian's watch or something. And she had to lie to her husband that this child was a stillborn, and so or else he would have gone off and attacked and killed the child. So then he was given to an older couple, and then he had no recollection, obviously, as a baby, what his life was before, like who parented him. So he more or less just like went on with his life, and Sebastian went on looking for this child that he finds out that he has.
She must have died later on, because then Sebastian would have known earlier. I think she sent the letter on her deathbed or something like that, like, by the way, we sired a child during that time together, and that's why he just now has the letter and is looking for his son.
Yeah. So yeah, the story I feel like more starts here, where he doesn't have a memory, and he finds out that he has a father named Sebastian, and he's like this big duke, and he meets his siblings, and like Merritt's trying to like connect with him again, and like I feel like that's where the story starts here. And we also find out that his I guess, lack of a better word, his stepfather is kind of after him and wanting to kill him, because Kier is now the rightful heir to all of his properties and his money, because
he was married. Because at the time that she gave birth to this child, she was married to this man, therefore making him the legal heir, even if he is not the man's actual son.
Yeah. All right. That was a really long synopsis.
First off, since we ended here, can I say I really liked how Merritt didn't try to hide their week together, because that is such a fucking trope in amnesia books. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's not one of my favorite tropes at all.
Yeah.
I've just realized that we didn't go into whether or not we liked the book. Let me finish my thought and we'll go into it. I don't like amnesia books, so when I figured out that that's what it was gonna be, I was like, okay. But then she kind of twisted it a little bit, where I really liked Merritt, and she's got a lot of honor, and she's like, you know what, I'm not gonna lie about this. I mean, she didn't say about the sex, which I can understand, like, from a lady's perspective. She's not going to tell this guy who doesn't remember her, like, by the way, we had hot sex for a whole night.
Yeah.
But she didn't lie about the rest, so I appreciated that. She was very honest, and I think that that's, you know, admirable on that end.
Yeah, she was honest, but I love how she's like, Uncle Sebastian, I'm his fiance, we're engaged, we're getting married, so I have to go with you.
But then she said it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Like, she could have kept it going.
No,
like,
of course.
I also don't super love that trope, because it comes again with amnesia books so often, where it's like, oh, I'm not gonna tell him, like, I'll tell him that we're husband and wife or whatever, and then, like, I'll keep that lie going for the entirety of the book. Like, that kind of sits wrong with me.
And she kept up the lie with everyone else, but with him, as soon as she saw him, I think right after she told the lie, she's like, I kind of had to lie and say, we're engaged, but we're not, don't worry, but I just had to say it because I wanted to come with you and make sure you're safe.
Exactly. That was refreshing to me. Right.
So did you like it?
You think
March?
Oh,
sorry. I feel like we're so chaotic this episode, I don't even know.
No, go ahead first, actually.
Okay. All right. As you take a sip of your
water.
Okay.
Nothing fancy. I got a big old mug of whiskey in Kier's honor.
We should have drank whiskey to,
I don't drink whiskey. You want me to die?
I mean, I have whiskey. I know I have it in my, like, cabinet, but I've never tried it before.
But never tried it before either. So,
anyways, I feel like I won't live up to, like, Kier's whiskey. It sounds amazing.
Also, I feel like we're chaotic enough. If we had whiskey in our veins, all hell would break loose.
Or we could have a sense of order.
You think whiskey would rearrange our thoughts in a way that makes sense?
Who knows? All right. So I liked this book. I wasn't in love with it. I liked it. I don't know what else to say with it.
I feel like am I wrong in thinking that with Lisa Kleypas, you tend to prefer the ones that aren't necessarily about the working men?
No, that's not necessarily true. I feel like for this one, my gripes with this one was more so how quickly they fell in love and how quickly, like, they didn't have any conflict between, like, themselves, I feel. And, like, I didn't necessarily like how the ending happened. I felt like it was rushed, and I just felt like nothing really came of, like, his stepfather coming after him. He just died by, like, the people he hired, and, like, the people he hired still randomly came after him. But, like, at the end, it was just, like, okay. Like, I just felt like their story, that, like, itself kind of, like, took a pause as they were being attacked by people. And yeah, like, I liked it. I liked the story of Merritt and Kier. I liked the random nods to the Wallflowers. I like seeing the Wallflower characters in this, but it wasn't my favorite. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't my favorite.
I really enjoyed it. Not one of my favorites in the series. I mean, the Ravenelle series is not my favorite, period, but you know, still has some great books in there. Like,
no, of course.
Devil's Daughter is amazing. The one after that, Chasing Cassandra, is amazing. So, like, it still has some great books. But out of this particular series, it's not my favorite, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. And to me, what I kept thinking about was that this book, written by literally anyone else other than Lisa Kleypas, I would have thought was boring.
Really?
But it's written by Lisa Kleypas. Therefore, and I don't mean that because, like, oh, it's Lisa Kleypas. I mean that because it is Lisa Kleypas. Like, this is a woman that has been writing for decades. Mm-hmm. And to me, it shows not only her talent, obviously, but also how much she's honed her craft over the years.
Yeah.
That she can write a story like this with little to no action, really. Like, it's kind of an easygoing romance that kind of just, like you said, kind of, they get together pretty fast, sparks are flying, everything's pretty smooth between the two of them, and it's kind of exterior stuff happening in the background. So for her to be able to write that, which I don't think a whole lot of writers could write and make interesting, she made it interesting still. Yeah. And I was kind of reflecting on that, and I was thinking, like, just think back to the Wallflower books or the Hathaways or all those books. Yeah. Dreaming of You. There's so much that happens in those books. And I was kind of thinking, like, maybe a writer earlier in their careers, they feel like they have to throw in a lot of stuff, a lot of plot in their books in order to make them interesting, in order to make the romance interesting, which is fair enough. Like, that is not, like, a bad thing to do. But I was kind of thinking, like, maybe she's at a point in her career where she's like, well, maybe I want to focus on my characters more and less on throwing in every single plot point I can think of to, like, make this huge story. I mean, just think of, like, the plot of freaking Devil in Winter. Like, there's a lot of shit that happens in that book. Like, it's kind of wild.
But that book is still very much character-driven.
It is. No, of course. That's Lisa Kleypas. Like, she loves her characters. But I'm thinking, like, I think it's okay for a writer sometimes to be like, you know what, I'm gonna, you know, write a more chill novel that's like, this one's more of a smooth journey that you're just kind of enjoying the characters, and it's very much like family reunion on family reunion, and like throwing in all the, you know, characters, throwback characters. And I'm cool with that, you know? Like, this is not the entirety of the series. It's, like, 1 or 2 books, and I was cool with it. I enjoyed myself. I was happy to be reunited with these characters. Like, that's the bottom of it.
I agree. I feel like it was really great to revisit these characters, and, like, I honestly missed Lisa Kleypas as a writer. Her world building is amazing. Her characters are really well written. But this book really heavily relied on, like, the Wallflowers. Like, Sebastian got POVs. I think Westcliff even got one. Lillian was there. Evie was there. And I felt like they had such a big impact on the story. And, like, she knew what she was doing. She knew
this was for the fans.
Yeah. Kier and Merritt, like, their story, like, I think maybe it happened so early and, like, they kind of didn't have issues because of, like, I don't want to say it like this, but I kind of felt like having the Wallflowers there, like, Lisa Kleypas knew people would be excited to see them more so than Kier and Merritt. Like, I felt like their story was, like, wrapped up and, like, dealt with. And then we, like, I don't know. I just feel like I was more excited to see Sebastian's POV or, like, read about Lillian and, like, read about Westcliff and all of them.
I don't know. I was still excited by Kier's and Merritt's POVs. Like, to me, that's where, at least for me personally, like, that's where her craft really shines. It's like...
Oh, no, of course.
It's like, yeah, I mean, Sebastian, to be perfectly honest, Sebastian St. Vincent walks onto the page of any scene and he steals it. Like, he's a scene stealer.
No, I know.
You can't help it. And I think she knows that.
Yeah.
But to me, at no point was I like, oh no, not this person again. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I was just happy to be there for the ride. You know, I'm just enjoying it. Plus, like, it is a very Lisa Kleypas thing to do. Her Wallflower Christmas book, for instance, it was exactly that. Like, she wanted to have a reunion book. And I guess maybe as a sort of compromise, you have the reunion that's heavily featured in the book. It's really the heart of it, but there is, you know, she also gives you that, like, new, interesting, blooming relationship between Rafe and whoever his girl was. And I don't know, personally, I like that format. I like that she's always giving you a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new in these sort of books, and I think it works for her. And I kind of see this one as that, you know? She was giving you a new relationship, but she was also giving you the reunion that you want.
Yeah, okay, I take it back. I don't mean it like I was, like, dreading reading their POVs. I wasn't. I just was more so excited when I saw Sebastian or when I saw someone else getting a POV, because, like, I miss them and I miss being in their head. But I really enjoyed seeing this new side of these characters where we see them as parents. We see them as, like, people that are giving advice where, like, we know they're, like, a chaotic bunch of people. Yeah. And so, like, I just liked seeing that side of them where they're, like, you know, just there to help these children. Well, they're not children, but, like, they're children. But, yeah. Can I also just say, I loved the scene where Kier and Merritt reunited, and they're kind of getting it on in the bedroom, and then Lillian bursts into the bedroom, sees them, and, like, slams the door, and then Sebastian's like, oh, shit, you saw it, didn't you? And she's like, yep.
Well, actually, that's not how it goes down. She opens the door, sees them, says something. The scene cuts. We're with Westcliff and Sebastian in, like, some kind of, I don't know, room. And Lillian walks in, And Sebastian knows that she was roaming in his house, and he's like, for sure she found them in bed together. Yeah. And the two of them are kind of like sending each other like signals of like, yep, I saw that. And Westcliff is like, doesn't know shit is going on.
No. He would have killed Keir if he saw that. He would have been like, get out! And cut off his dick. I just know Westcliff would have done that.
But I just love that Sebastian is the kind of father that's like, yep, I know they're having sex under my roof, and I'm proud.
Sebastian, though. Yeah, of course. He wouldn't care.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, this book was, like, one of the themes, I feel like, for this book was very much, like, and for a character that I don't think you would expect it to be, but fatherhood. Like, it's very much like fatherhood from Sebastian's perspective, a little bit from Westcliff as well. While I really loved Merritt and Keir together, but the scenes, I think some of my favorite scenes are the scenes of Keir and Sebastian together.
I agree. Especially,
Keir has this key that he's had ever since he was a little boy. He knew it was coming, it came from his mother, his actual mother, and he just never knew what it opened, but he just kept the key. I just freaking love the scene. Well, okay, first of all, when Sebastian first, like, tells Keir about everything, Sebastian has the lock.
Yeah.
Essentially. And the first time, Sebastian's like, do you want to try the key? Just to see if, like, it unlocks, right? And Keir at first, he's like, nope. He refuses. He doesn't, like, he's not ready yet. But goddamn, the scene towards the end where Sebastian he tries again. He's like, do you want to try the lock? And Keir tries the lock, and I think I wrote it down because I was like, oh my god, the emotions that are going through really me right now. Sebastian says, you'll always be the son of Lachlan McRae, but maybe you could be mine too. Aww. And Keir says, A. No, I.
Wait, A.
He's Australian now.
Or Canadian, eh?
Or Canadian, eh? He says I. But I melted.
Yeah, because they're both teary-eyed and, like, the emotions you know they're high.
Sebastian is literally crying. He is crying. And that was so beautiful to me. And shout out to my girl Evie, because to her, it was never, like, a bad thing. Like, she never saw Keir as, like, oh, the child that my husband had with another woman.
Because it's
like,
Evie.
Evie has the biggest heart, and she will love anything. And right away, to her, it was like the son. Like, he was her son, and to Sebastian, he was obviously his son, and he without wanting to erase the father that Keir had, which was a great father. Keir loved him, and he had a great childhood with that father. But Sebastian was like, maybe you can be mine too. And I was like, I know.
And I know we're seem to be focusing on Sebastian, but I also loved that we we got to see how much he searched for this boy, this child. He was, like, sick with worry. He, like, hired investigators, hired detectives. He wanted to find his son, and, like, he never referred to him as, like, anything other than his son. Like, in his head, despite him being illegitimate, despite him being, like, I guess, a bastard child, he never, like, paid attention to society and, like, what they would think. He just wanted to know his son was alive and safe, and he wanted his son. And, like, honestly, I love that about Sebastian, and I loved seeing that he loved his kid despite not even knowing him, and, like, I just loved it.
And he wanted to give him space. Like, he gave him all the time that he needed to come to terms with that fact, which I loved. And also, like, to Sebastian, if it meant letting Keir go, he would have done it. Like, he just wanted his son to be happy and to have everything that he needs. And even, like, towards the end when he's like, no matter what you need, I'll be here. I'll give it to you. And I was like, bawling.
But I feel like this comes back to, like, what we think of, like, that whole situation of Keir being his son. Yeah. I didn't hate it at all. I actually like how it was worked into the story.
Yeah.
And I loved that, you know, they mentioned his talk with Evie, and I just honestly, like, him and Evie they're fiction for a reason because they're so perfectly like put together, and like they just like they understand each other so well to the point where like you yearn for that. And I love how like they both bring out each other's like best qualities. And I loved it. And I loved how, like, we already talked, I don't want to repeat what you said, but like how Sebastian and Kier talked about things and worked through their problems. I felt like it was done so well. And I honestly loved it. And I felt like it complemented the story as well as the Wallflowers so well.
Very mature. Very mature on both of their ends. Because, like, even Kier, a typical romance hero thing to do, in my opinion, would have been to be hostile towards Sebastian and like just to create some drama, you know what I mean, like just have him like completely flat out refuse, be mean, blah, blah, blah. But that's just not who Kier is. Like he's not a mean guy.
He's a great,
and sure
great guy.
Like he needed his time and he needed some space. I just loved that like both of them were just mature about it. Like you know, there wasn't just drama for the sake of it, and I just appreciate that. But speaking of fathers, I want to know, because when we learned...
daddies, which one are you speaking about?
Both. But when we learned that this book was going to be about Merritt, we both thought that was going to be a whole lot of Westcliff and Lillian. So I want to know how you felt about the fact that there really wasn't that much.
I was
disappointed. Really Sebastian.
I was so sad. I was so sad. But I honestly feel like maybe she's gonna keep that for another like of their child's books.
Foxhole?
I mean, I don't know, but like, I mean, to be honest, I did want more of Westcliff and Lillian because like we know Merritt obviously was their first child, and like she's been through a lot of hardships herself, and I kind of wanted her parents to be there, but I also wanted to be in Westcliff's head for reasons, but. That being said, I enjoyed that it was a more Sebastian-centric book because...
It made sense.
It made sense. And I love Merritt, and I think she's a great character, and I love her parents dearly. But I feel like it wasn't their time. Because I feel like their book will happen, like, not their book, but, like, they will have more scenes in later books. And, yeah. I'm just, like, I was okay with it. At first, I was really disappointed, but... Hey, it's okay.
And I mean, Lillian had a scene with Kier. I still feel like she shines in this book because I had forgotten. Like, we haven't seen her for so long.
I love Lillian.
I had kind of forgotten how she is. And then she was on the page and I was like, oh, you know what? Lillian is a great-ass character. Like, she's
wonderful.
So... And, you know, it was great to see her as a mother and not just of small kids, but like actual grown-up kids.
Exactly.
And see how she acts with them. You know, like just it's so Lillian to walk into the room of her daughter as she's having sex and be like, oh, okay, I'll come back later.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. With her American accent.
Yeah. And I loved how like their personalities didn't change. Like they kind of stayed the same. Like they matured as characters, of course, but I feel like the way they brought up their children was like the same as like how I envisioned they would do it, how Sebastian would do it with Evie. And like I just loved them, and I loved how we got to see them as mature beings. And also I also love that despite Sebastian and Evie and Lillian and Westcliff raising their kids up together to the point where like they kind of think of themselves as siblings, we still got that Sebastian and Westcliff child union that I kind of wanted in my head.
Wait, what? Oh, okay, from Kier and
Merritt. But what do you because Daisy and Annabelle, they're not even mentioned at all really in these books. Do you think they'll come and maybe we'll get more books with their children? Like,
is it possible that Daisy and what's her guy's name? Matthew? Is it possible that they moved back to America? Or did I imagine that? Was that the brother, Rafe? Someone moved back, I think.
I feel like they moved to America.
Someone moved. As for Simon and Annabelle, That's true. They haven't been mentioned. I don't think that anything bad happened. I think that the Wallflowers are still, you know, as thick as thieves together. Wallflower code forever.
Yeah.
Which there is no Wallflower code. They will tell you that.
But I do think maybe because like they weren't raised as like close knit with like Sebastian and Westcliffe's children. Maybe later on in the series we might get some crossover books. Who knows?
But also, like, give me Daddy Simon. Like, Simon doesn't get the love that he deserves.
And I don't know why.
The butcher's son. He grew up thick and muscly. He made his money, which is sexy. Okay.
Preach it, girl.
This could literally be us for 4 hours talking about all of Lisa Kleypas' men. We could be sitting here preaching everything that is great about these men.
Oh my god.
And there's no whiskey yet, so
no whiskey. Only tea, guys.
Speaking of whiskey, yes. I'm going in a completely different direction.
Okay.
One thing that Lisa Kleypas is famous for, well, not famous for, but known for, is the fact that she has amazing food descriptions. Like, she goes in on that food description, and you're sitting there, and you're like, oh my god, I can taste the butter on my lips. But can I tell you that Kier, our whiskey guy, he talks about whiskey in this book like he's making love to a woman. Have you noticed that? Like, the care, there's intent and passion and intensity.
The man's passionate about his whiskey.
He is, but like, you're like, fucking hell, are you making love or talking to me about whiskey? And maybe I want both at the same time from you. Like, this is like, holy shit, Lisa Kleypas.
I know. And it's because she like does her research. I was reading her
oh yeah, she has recipes and everything.
Yeah, she does her research. She like researched all the whiskey and like how it's like curated and all of that. And then I just feel like I love when authors are just so passionate about what they're writing about and like what they love, and just like you feel the love in the books. You honestly do.
You feel that she was like, all right, I'm gonna write a book about whiskey. And you can feel that she did her research, and she loved doing her research, and she loved adding those little bits in the book. And I love when those things transpire in a novel. And I mean, obviously, it's Lisa Kleypas, so she's pretty much a genius and amazing at what she does. But I swear to God, those descriptions, I was like, holy shit, why is this getting me hot? He's literally talking about an adult beverage. Like, hello. In that Scottish accent, which, may I tell you that I did the audiobook, so I did get the Scottish accent, which at first was difficult to understand, not gonna lie. But, oh my god, like, just imagine that accent talking to me in my ear about whiskey. I was like, oh, Kier.
Damn. In my head, he sounded really hot, so I can only imagine what he actually sounded like.
Hot.
Okay.
Like, you didn't really like Ransom's book, but let me tell you that had you done the audiobook for that book, Ransom's accent, 10 out of 10, would definitely recommend. It was like, it took his character from like a solid 8, I would say, to like a 13. I was like, holy shit.
I will say, the little mentions we got of Ransom and Garrett and like the scenes we got of them, they were really cute.
They're cute.
I just love
they're
Garrett's
a little different.
character.
They're different for Lisa Kleypas. So, you know, gotta respect that, you know, she branched out and she was like, working woman, doctor with a working man, spy.
Again, the research that went into Garrett's character as well. Amazing.
God, yeah. You know, Lisa Kleypas was writing fierce ass women from day one.
Yeah. One more scene that I wanted to talk about was when Lillian found out about Kier and him being Sebastian's illegitimate son, and like her kind of being hurt that she wasn't in the know, where like her husband knew, Evie knew, And she was like, okay, I guess, like, what am I, chopped liver? Like, I'm nothing, I guess, to you. And then, like, Sebastian is like, oh, shit, I actually hurt Lillian's feelings. Like, I didn't think of it. Or, like, I didn't think she could get her feelings hurt by me. I thought she hated me. And then, like, he goes to find her. And then...
It's like it's been 40 years. You're still holding a grudge.
I know. And it's like, honestly, I love the little nod to, like, the past and, like, what happened there. And, like, he's like, wait, you honestly want to be my friend? And then she's like, obviously, you idiot. And, like, I loved that scene.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, why are they having this argument, like, 40 years later? But also, like, it was cute. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can spend time with people and, like, you know, not really, like, develop a deeper connection because, like, I feel like everyone's around each other and, like, your kids grew up together, so you kind of, like, lose yourself and, like, all of that. And, like, you kind of have to take a step back and, like, evaluate your relationships with people. And I felt like Lillian, honestly, was so hurt. And, like, he honestly didn't recognize that she could be hurt by him because of everything that happened. And, like, he never thought about it. And, like, I just loved that they had that heart-to-heart and that discussion that they needed to have 30, 40 years ago. But I'm happy that they had that now. And, like, now they're more of, like, a closer, like, group of people now because of that.
Yeah, and I can also understand how he'd feel like, you know, we're only friends because you're married to Marcus and I'm married to Evie.
Wife.
And so, yeah, so, like, I can see why he never probably thought, like, oh, yeah, we're friends, you know, like, we're just acquainted because
we're kind of forced to be around each other. Like, I kidnapped you, but you know what?
Not, like, in an uncomfortable way, just kind of, because obviously they were tight, but, like, I can see why it was never mentioned between the two of them, like, so we're actually friends, you and I, right? Like, So, no, yeah, I like that. But also, like, sometimes I was sitting there like, oh my god, remember when Sebastian kidnapped Lydia? Like, what a long
Do you tell your kids
come.
about that? Like, I need to know.
Exactly. Like, do they know? That one time Uncle Sebastian kidnapped your mother.
Oh my god.
Also, one weird thing, and I'm sorry, it's about Sebastian again. It's about Sebastian again. Who's this book about again? Sebastian, right?
I don't know. It's about Sebastian's twin.
But wasn't it weird how everyone kept, and even, like, the text, like, everyone kept calling him Kingston, which I know is his title, especially now that Gabriel is now St. Vincent because the title was passed down and everything. But why don't people call him Sebastian? Why is everyone calling him Kingston? Like, at first I was like, who the fuck is Kingston? Like, I knew it was Sebastian, but I was like, I don't recognize this man.
I mean, like, everyone calls him Sebastian, like, all the close-knit people, but, like, who calls him? Uncle Sebastian.
No,
Lillian
I feel like she says
Sebastian.
Uncle Kingston.
Sorry?
I feel like she says Uncle Kingston at some
No,
point.
she says Uncle Sebastian or Uncle Seb or something like that.
Well, then the narration says Kingston. Like, Kingston does that, turns around, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's Sebastian. Why are you saying Kingston? Like, who the fuck is that? That's just a title. That's his last name. Like, I don't care. It's Sebastian. Call him Daddy. That makes more sense.
Oh, man. Honestly, if Sebastian had a book now in his 60s,
I would read the fuck out of it.
Not, like, I'm just saying, if Evie never came around and, like, him as a 60-year-old, like, they always say, like, the old men, like, want young wives and, like, you know, in the time, like, it's just gross. But, like, if that man showed up and looked like that, I would be first in line. I don't care.
Oh, girl, I would too. Especially he's rich as well. And he looks like an angel of death. That is how Kier describes them. Yeah. And I was like, that is the most accurate description I've ever heard.
Okay, also, let's talk about Kier's looks, because also he apparently is Sebastian's, like, twin. Yeah. He looked like...
younger self.
Yes.
To a T.
Yeah. So don't worry. Kier is also hot.
Kier is extremely hot as well. The genetics are, you know, came through with this one.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I just feel like we're talking about looks and we sound so vapid and shallow right now.
Can we talk about sex? Can we pivot? Can I say what I wasn't expecting coming into this book was some 69 action. We have some 69 action in this book. Do you remember that? It lasted maybe like 5 lines. And then in that same sex scene, there was some crease action on Kier's part. He was rubbing a finger in places.
And my girl went whoop off like a firework.
Yep. And I was like, okay, Lisa, I hear you. I see you. I didn't expect this, but I'm glad it's here.
Yeah. I remember that scene, but I don't remember the 69.
Girl, you gotta go back. There's some 69 action. I was like, this literally never happens in romance novels. Like, I can't even tell you the last time I read a romance novel that had some 69.
Yeah.
It's so rare, and I don't really understand why.
Huh. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go read it and then report back to you some other time.
Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I dreamt it.
Or maybe, like, your imagination just, like, got ahead of you and that's what you saw. Okay, we're not speaking of sex anymore, but, like, I guess what comes after sex, you know. Oh, wait, you have more sex?
No.
Okay. Okay, so we find out Merritt cannot have children, and I think it's like, I feel like it kind of sounds like PCOS, like what she has. I don't know. Okay, well, she has something going on that she's been told that she will not be able to have children, and my guy...
Or she ovulates very, very rarely. I think that's what it is. So it's extremely unlikely that she could.
Yeah, so it's extremely hard for her to get pregnant and have a child. But our boy Kier was like, who raised me? And he's like, I was adopted and I had loving parents, and like, why would you think that I would not want to do the same thing? Why would you think that I would not care to adopt a child and like raise it as my own child? And I loved that about him, and I loved that he was so ready to do that. I kind of like, I love that they had like,
it had gone that way.
I wish it went that way. And I love that, yes, she got pregnant and her dream was to have her own child. I get that. But I also feel like it was a missed opportunity here because adoption, especially in historical romances, is so rare.
So rare. And there were so many children back then that needed a home.
Yeah.
Still to this day, but back then, I mean, it was rough. And the orphanage was not a fun place to be in most cases. So like, I wish... I really thought they were going to be the couple when she set up Merritt as being barren, which I loved. And I was like, oh, I can see them adopting, especially with Kier's background. Like, I mean, he made it obvious that it really wasn't an issue for him. Like, he would have been proud to adopt a kid and raise him as his son.
Yeah.
In the end, she didn't go for that. And, like, I mean, whatever. Like, it kind of made for a funny scene with, like, Sebastian being like, my super sperm, you know, my genetics.
I know, and like I did like that scene, but I also feel like there's just like
it doesn't mean that they won't adopt in the future.
No,
you know?
I know, maybe but I just feel like it's such an easy way out, you know, like, oh, it's fiction, so you magically get pregnant, you know, and I feel like in real life that doesn't happen, and I feel like I really wished that Lisa Kleypas like showed them adopting a child in the end instead of her like delivering a child, you know, like, or sorry, getting pregnant.
Yes, but I think we can also see it as it's not a predicament that makes it impossible for you to have kids. It just makes it tough. But there are a lot of women with that same thing that happen to have kids. That's true. It just sometimes takes a lot longer, sometimes years to manage to conceive. And in some cases, it's like within a couple months of learning their diagnosis, they get pregnant. And
that is true.
It just so happens that it worked. So... I think it's kind of more nuanced than that. I think there's 2 ways to see it. I would have loved for them to adopt. Doesn't mean that they can't in the future. Maybe they will. Maybe in future books that's what's gonna happen. But you know, it worked out for them. And maybe, you know, for some women with that same diagnosis, maybe that would be something really helpful to see and happy to see in a romance novel. To be like, you know what? That's true. You know, it can still happen. It's not impossible.
That's true. That's a good way to look at it.
But speaking of Merritt, well, first of all, I'm wondering, how did you like her? We didn't really talk about Merritt, the heroine of this novel.
No, I think I did say that I liked her as a character. I felt like she was well written, and I liked that she never changed her mind. She knew she liked Kier from the beginning, and I love that she went and got him. But I also found it really interesting that, like, despite seeing her parents' love and despite seeing how they were so in love and, like, not, she kind of didn't want that for herself at first when she married her husband. She more so married the logical choice, and she's like, I know I won't ever love him, so I'm going to choose him. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, it kind of made sense in the sense that, like, you won't necessarily have what your parents had. In some cases, you know, you don't want what your parents have because it's terrible. And in some cases, you know, they have a great love story and then somehow you marry someone and you get divorced 3 years afterwards. So I can kind of see, well, I mean, I kind of think, like, Merritt, her first marriage, she was, yeah, like you said, it was more, like, practical than anything, like, logical. Like, yeah, there's this man, he's, you know, good looking enough, and he'll make a good husband, which he did. I liked that aspect of the story, like, besides the whole, like, oh, he left when he learned that she was barren. I mean, he didn't, like, leave, he just wasn't there as an emotional support for her, because he was, you know, dealing with his own feelings, which, you know, he's allowed to deal with his own feelings.
Oh,
like,
no,
it's not to be disregarded. Like, men can mourn the fact that they won't have kids as well. It's not just a woman thing. But overall, like, he was a pretty good husband, which I like, because oftentimes it's like, oh, the husband that died was, like, terrible and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which this wasn't the case. It just wasn't, like, a love match, you know? And then the second time around, it was time for her to maybe try something different, something more fulfilling on the emotional level. And what I thought was interesting was the fact that now she's a widow. And usually in historical romance, widows have a lot more freedom, which she does have to a certain extent. But I thought it was still interesting how the idea of not wanting to cause a scandal was still looming over her.
Yeah.
Despite her being a widow, despite her being, you know, Westcliffe's daughter, which, you know, you would think puts you, you know, at a hell of an advantage, you know, in society, because it's like your father is pretty much, like, on top of the world. Like, nobody really outranks Westcliff, besides technically Sebastian, but in terms of money,
yeah,
he doesn't.
But maybe it's because of that reason itself, that because he has such a high position in society, she didn't want to be, like, look as, like, a disappointment or, like, I don't know, like, a black mark on his reputation as well. Because, you know, society in the time is just, you know, they love for a scandal.
I don't think she sees it that way. Like, I feel like
I don't
that
think
would
she
be
sees it
true.
that way, but I think everyone else sees it that way.
Perhaps. But, like, I was thinking more, like, maybe she doesn't see it that way because it's just not in her personality, really. Like, she's not someone who I would consider, like, particularly wild or, you know, it's just not who she is. So she naturally probably wouldn't be someone who would cause any sort of scandal. I don't know where I was going with this, besides really just saying that I liked that despite her being a widow, it wasn't like everything was just suddenly, you know, she could do anything she wanted. Like, a lot of people kept reminding her, like, you're gonna cause a scandal, like, are you sure you want to go ahead with this?
Yeah.
And, you know, she was like, hell yeah, I want Keir, so I don't care, I'm gonna get what I want, and respect that.
And I love that she, like, recognized that she was in love with him really early on, and she asked Phoebe, she's like, is this love? Is this normal? And then Phoebe's like, no, this is lust. But, like, she still stuck to her guns. She's like, no, I know this is love. Yeah. And she just went for it. And I liked her character. I really did.
You know what? Sometimes people do fall in love at first sight. My grandparents did.
Really?
They did. So it happens. And they've been together for 55 years of marriage, I think. So,
damn.
You know, it happens.
Real love does exist.
It does exist.
Aww.
Speaking of Phoebe, first of all, love Phoebe. Love her. But I loved the scene where Keir's talking to her and she's like, so essentially you're not really Scottish, and Keir literally, like, his heart, you can hear it break.
He had a breakdown.
He's like, what do you mean I'm not Scottish? Like, he's the most proud Scotsman out there. And I just love that then Phoebe went on her merry way, and she was like, God damn it, I gotta find a Scottish person in her ancestry.
And then she got Serafina to find
involved, and Serafina found out that they were related. They're like 8 times great grandfather was James the First, King of the Scots.
No, and it was Robert.
No, it was James.
Was it not Robert?
Well, it was some king of the Scots.
Yeah.
Keir literally lost his shit. He was like so happy.
I know.
And I just love that Phoebe and Serafina did that for him. They were like, okay, we gotta find something for this man or else he's gonna lose it.
And I thought it was really interesting, like still with the sibling thing, seeing him bond with his half siblings. I thought that was honestly like so wonderful to read about. And like, yes, him and Phoebe bonded, but I feel like he bonded first with her child, and then like slowly he bonded with Serafina and then Ivo, and then he even met Gabriel, but like in passing. And I liked seeing that because he does have a family from like going, because both his parents died, the people that raised him, and he kind of was alone. He had no one, and then
his parents were elderly as well.
Yeah, and like cut to now, and he has a whole family and like extended family with the Wallflowers that are like waiting to like welcome him in,
and nieces. Yeah, that scene with the baby.
I know,
where he rocked the baby to sleep with like a song or something, like a Scottish
song.
No, yeah, I did love that. Like, I just love how welcoming everyone was, and like how loving right away, like right off the bat. Like to him, to all of them, it's not like someone else is stealing a spot. It's like, no, there's more room. There will always be more room in their family for people.
I just love the Wallflowers.
Okay, so the monster of the story. What is it?
I know. I feel like we talked about a lot of this already.
Oh.
One being like the past and like how that happened with like Keir's parents. But I also felt like society was a big problem in this as well. Like I feel like the upbringing you have with society and like the concept of societal class and social class, and how you can only bring someone down if they marry someone below their societal standing. And like that was a thought that Keir had throughout the wholeness of this book, I would say, like until probably like closer to the end. He just thought that Merritt would be like looked down upon in society if she married him, or if she decided to, have a relationship with him. Like she would lose her spot in society. And even she recognized that if she were to marry below her standing, she would also lose some of the privileges she has in the ton. So that kind of stopped them from pursuing.
But also, something that's not really acknowledged in the book, or maybe it is and I missed it, but not necessarily a monster for these characters in particular, but just the whole thing that, like, Sebastian never would have been able to acknowledge Keir as his actual son if he weren't Sebastian St. Vincent, because their social standing is what protects them in this instance. And like they know it's going to cause a hell of a riot in society, but they can do it because they know that they can weather the storm, and their name will save them. Their title will save them in that case. And I mean, it's obviously super cute that like everyone's more than happy to take that risk,
Yeah.
For them it's not a question, but it has to be said that they can do that because of who they are. Someone lower than them never would have been able to do that.
Exactly. And I just feel like it's so interesting to me that like society, if anyone else out, if anyone else was in Sebastian's shoes, they would be shunned from society. I just think that's so interesting because Sebastian had this child way before his marriage, and like I understand, sure, it was like with a married woman, but it was just like before he even like was anything, like I just feel like the society and like the ton, like their rules and like their regulations of like what's deemed appropriate or not, it's just like it's so interesting to me. Do you have any monsters?
Well, okay, so first off, I think for Keir, as we mentioned, so I won't go into detail, but I think for him it was mostly just letting go of the idea that there is a limited amount of space in his life and in his heart, and that accepting Sebastian meant erasing his own father and mother, and like erasing what they meant to him. He had to come to terms with the fact that like, no, there's enough room for everyone, and you can still love your parents and what they did for you and acknowledge them as your parents, but also accept Sebastian in as like also your father, just a different kind of father, a father that unfortunately couldn't be around you for most of your life, but now he's here and he wants to love you, and it's up to you to accept that or refuse that. So for him, I think that was part of the journey. For Merritt, I think it was in part understanding that she's not less than, that she's enough even if she's barren. I think it wasn't necessarily like super present in the book, but it did come up a couple times, especially at some point she tells Kier, like, I'll never be able to give you a child, and that's when he says, like, the whole, oh, I'm adopted, like, I could not care less.
Because she does pull away from him emotionally. And I do think that played a big part for her. I did have one more for Kier. So basically, his insecurity, and I say this in a way that, despite Merritt keep telling him that she wanted to be with him and wanted to pursue things with him and the life that they could have, he kept pulling away and he kept trying to push her into a life without him and a life in society, which we kind of talked about already. But I also feel like his insecurity came into play when Merritt really wanted to go with him to Scotland and help him with the people coming to kill him, and she even proved to him and everyone else that she could take care of herself when she, like, took the gun and, like, you know, started shooting at things in the garden, and, like, she could take better care of them than I think he could have, because he doesn't know how to shoot a gun. And I don't know if that was just because he loved her so much he didn't want her to get hurt, or how did that play into things, but, like, he even left her back in England, and she was like, what the hell? And she had to travel her way to Scotland by herself. And she did find him, obviously, but I just felt like his insecurity kind of stopped them from, you know, doing things together.
That last thing, I don't know if I see that as insecurity. I think it's more so what you just said of, like, it was more so for her protection. Like, it's a very Sebastian thing to do. Like, he's got that in his blood. Like, just leaving and being like, I'm leaving.
No, of course. I do see that. But I also feel like this book felt more like balanced in terms of gender roles. And I felt like, why can't Merritt protect the person she loves? Why does she not, like, why is she not able to help the person that she loves? Because she doesn't want him she doesn't want to see him get hurt. And the same could be said for Kier. He doesn't want to see the person he loves get hurt. So I feel like, why couldn't they both protect each other? Whereas, like, I feel like in the book previous to that, they very much were equal in their relationship. Like, they had the same roles and, like, the same, like, they're both working people. Like, of course, yes, she had a title, but, like, she still, like, owned Sterling, you know, the docks and all of that. So,
but think of every argument that they have in this book. Kier always gives in. He always does. Every time they'll argue, and then she'll say something, and he'll give in, and he'll give her what she wants, exactly what she wants.
That's true.
And I think in that particular instance, he did it to protect her, because he was like, I know I can't argue with her because I'll freaking give in again.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm just gonna leave.
This man legit, like, left.
She followed
in the middle of the
him,
night.
And he realized that, and once he saw her in Scotland, he was like on Isla or whatever it was called. They got married. Like, he wasn't really mad. They got married. It was a chaotic wedding. Loved it. Mm-hmm. And then when it came down to, like, the actual event where it's like they were, you know, there was this guy that was supposed to kill them, and, like, the whole thing, he tells her, stay inside. What does she do? She goes outside. And is he mad at any point? No, he doesn't say anything. So I think for Kier, it's like, he just won't say anything and he'll just leave because he knows he'll give in.
That's true.
But I do think with Kier, the thing that you're kind of putting your finger on, and it's not just with Merritt, it's with Sebastian, it's with everyone else, he's got a really hard time asking for help and asking for assistance and, like, someone to help him out. And I do think that was part of it. It's like, you know, instead of asking Merritt for help after he's stabbed, he's like, oh, I'll just tell her I can't be here for the dinner, and then I'll go, you know, by myself, you know, mend my own wounds type of thing. Like, he's very much like that, which is why I love the part where Sebastian is like, if you ever need anything, come to me. And I don't think that Kier is like, no, in that moment, because I think he's done some growing, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I can actually ask for help. I can rely on other people. And part of that might have been because his parents were elderly. So, like, maybe while they were amazing parents and caring parents, maybe because they were elderly, it was like he couldn't really rely on them for a lot of things. And, like, obviously they died when he was kind of young. So, you know, maybe he was alone for a very long time and had to, you know, fend for himself. So maybe that's where that comes from, of this idea that he's got to do by himself.
I agree with that. I like that point.
Do we have an announcement or not?
I don't know. Do we?
We do. And if you are listening to this, you are getting an official inside scoop into our next read-along series on the podcast. Seth.
The Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas. Woo! Okay.
We are planning on
excited.
rereading the Wallflowers series with S.
This
is why S is not here today, because obviously this is book 7 in the Ravenels, and she hasn't read book 1 in the Wallflowers, so it did make sense. So she will be with us along the journey. Steph and I are so excited to reread those books. Some of them I have never reread.
Same.
Spoiler alert, including my favorite one.
And if you haven't picked up yet, like, her favorite one is Devil in Winter.
Yeah, I never reread Devil in Winter because I am absolutely terrified of rereading that book and being like, you know what? Not my favorite.
I'm curious for myself because every time I reread that book, I like it more and more and more. So I'm curious to see if what happens when I read it for, like, I think it's going to be my 4th time or 3rd time rereading.
Wow.
I haven't reread it. No. But I haven't reread it in, like, the past year and a bit because, like, I knew it was something we were talking about, like, reading the Wallflower books and all of Lisa Kleypas books. So I just decided to stay away from that series. So I'm curious to see if my thoughts stay the same, if they differ, or what happens with that.
In my defense, I'm not a rereader. Therefore, I don't tend to reread my favorite books because what can happen when I reread books is that I like the books less. Not because the book isn't good, just because my brain already knows the story. Yeah. That impacts my enjoyment of it. So in the Wallflowers, I've reread book 1, Secrets of a Summer Night, at least twice. And I've reread the 4th one twice.
That's interesting.
But never books 3 and 4, because those are my 2 and 3, because those are my favorites.
Yeah.
But we will start with, again, the magic, because if
y'all
are skipping that book, if y'all are skipping that book, you are skipping a hell of a book. So
yes. You're skipping McKenna.
McKenna and Gideon and Olivia and what's the name of McKenna's girl?
Why would you say that? I don't know.
I'm putting you on the spot because I can't remember.
I can't remember. Well, you know what? That's the whole point of a reread. We refresh our memory and pick up things that maybe you might not have picked up the first time, like the heroine's name.
Yep, and we did say we wanted to read A Scarred Heroine, which, again, the magic has.
Right.
We're so excited, you guys. We do not know yet when we're starting that, but it just felt like a natural thing to do to announce it here, since it is a Lisa Kleypas book.
Yes.
And we may or may not have some guests joining us for those episodes, some of them. So we're excited. Yeah. And you will join us. So, that's it. And
that's it.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion. If you have any thoughts that you would like to share with us, you can find us online. On Twitter, we are the RTM Pod. On Instagram, it is Romancing the Monsters Podcast. You can also email us at romancingthemonsterspodcast@gmail.com. I am slowing myself down, and it is literally using brain power right now because I'm so used to being like TikTok is Romance and the Monsters Pod. Have you been doing content on there? I don't know.
Not recently, but I do have some ideas. Hopefully I'll get to recording them soon.
Putting you on the spot again.
No, honestly, it's just like...
She's slacking.
No, I'm only slacking because, like, you know, I need to, like, do my makeup, and, like, I haven't been wearing makeup recently. So, yeah.
And then YouTube, just type Romance and the Monsters podcast. You can find us on there if you need captions or you prefer that format. We are on there as well. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Foes and Lovers.
And you can find me, Steph, on both Instagram and Twitter at Pros with Woes. And also, please feel free to leave us any ratings or reviews on any podcast platforms. It really means a lot to us, even if it's just like a rating. Anything would be appreciated.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.